Hashtag, could ancient humans understand animal language? What if I told you that ancient humans might have understood what animals were saying to each other? Not metaphorically, literally. We're talking about real communication, real comprehension, the kind of understanding that could have meant the difference between survival and death in a world where you couldn't just order groceries online. But here's the thing that keeps neuroscientists up at night. We have almost no evidence of it. And that's exactly what we're exploring today. Let's start with something that'll blow your mind. Your brain is different from a caveman's brain. Not better, not worse, different. Scientists have found that prehistoric humans had slightly larger brains than we do. But brain size isn't everything. It never was. What matters is what you do with it. Ancient humans lived in a world of constant sensory information. Every sound mattered. The crack of a twig could mean a predator was nearby. The call of a bird could signal danger or opportunity. These weren't just ambient noises, they were survival signals, and our ancestors had to decode them instantly or die trying. But could they actually understand animal communication the way we might understand a barking dog? Here's where it gets interesting. Modern humans can recognize maybe 10 to 15 distinct dog barks and understand what they mean. Aggressive bark, playful bark, alert bark. We know the difference because we've been living with dogs for thousands of years. We've learned their language through proximity and necessity. Ancient humans, they had something even more powerful: desperation. Imagine living thousands of years ago, no written language, no recorded knowledge. Your survival depends entirely on reading the world around you. You need to know when a predator is hunting, when a herd of prey animals is moving through your territory, when the weather is about to change. Animals knew all of this before you did, so you watched them, you listened to them, you learned patterns, and this is where it gets really fascinating. Archaeological evidence suggests that ancient humans were incredibly good at this. Stone tools show deliberate patterns that indicate careful observation of animal behavior, hunting techniques that worked because hunters understood prey patterns, migration routes that followed animal movements. But understanding an animal's intention is different from understanding animal language. That's the critical distinction. Let me explain what we know about animal communication first. Most animals don't have language the way humans do. They have signals. A wolf's howl isn't a sentence, it's a broadcast. A deer's snort isn't grammar, it's a warning. Even our closest genetic relatives, chimpanzees, have maybe 40 distinct vocalizations, not 40,000 words, 40 sounds that mean roughly the same thing every time. So when we ask if ancient humans could understand animal language, we're really asking, could they decode these signals accurately enough to predict behavior and respond appropriately? The answer is almost certainly yes, to a degree. Here's what the evidence tells us. Hunter-gatherer societies that still exist today demonstrate an almost supernatural ability to read animal behavior. They can identify animal species, health status, and emotional state from tracks alone. They know which birds are calling warnings and which are just chattering. They understand animal movement patterns so deeply that it seems like they're reading minds, and they do this without formal training. It's learned through years of observation and cultural transmission, knowledge passed down generation to generation. Ancient humans had exactly the same cognitive abilities, the same brain capacity, the same need to survive through understanding their environment. So it's reasonable to conclude they were at least as good at decoding animal signals as modern hunter-gatherers. But there's a limit to this understanding. An ancient human might have recognized that a lion's roar meant danger, that a bird taking flight meant something spooked it, that a herd of animals moving in a particular direction indicated water or food. These are interpretations of signals based on pattern recognition and experience. That's not the same as understanding language. True language requires abstract thought. It requires understanding that sounds or symbols represent concepts that don't exist in the immediate environment. It requires grammar, tense, and the ability to discuss things that aren't present. No animal on Earth has this except humans, and humans only developed it relatively recently in evolutionary terms. Most scientists place the origin of true human language somewhere between 50,000 and 100,000 years ago. Some argue it's even more recent. Before that, before true language, humans communicated, they signaled, they shared information. But they didn't have language, so if ancient humans didn't have fully developed language themselves, they certainly couldn't have understood animal language, because animal language, as we define it, doesn't exist. What they could do was read animal signals with incredible accuracy. They could observe and interpret, they could predict behavior, they could use those predictions to hunt, to hide, to survive, and that might have been just as valuable as understanding language would have been. Here's what's really mind-bending about this. Some researchers suggest that humans' ability to understand and communicate with animals might have actually helped us develop our own language. By observing animal signals and learning to recognize subtle distinctions in meaning, we might have developed the cognitive tools necessary for true linguistic thought. We basically practiced language through animals before we had language ourselves. Think about that for a moment. Your ancient ancestors might have looked at a bird and thought, that sound means danger, that other sound means safety, that pattern means food is near. By categorizing and organizing thousands of these observations, they might have been building the neural pathways that would eventually become human language. It's a theory, but it's one that explains a lot about why humans are so good at understanding animals today. Why a trained animal behaviorist can watch a dog and predict its next move. Why horse trainers seem almost mystical in their ability to communicate with animals. We've been doing this since before we had words for it. But here's the part that should actually concern us. We're losing this ability. Modern humans spend an average of 7 hours a day looking at screens. We don't hunt, we don't track, we don't live in the physical world the way our ancestors did. And as a result, our ability to read animal signals is declining. We can't recognize a stressed cat from a content one. We're bitten by dogs we thought were friendly. We're surprised when wildlife behaves in ways that would have been obvious to anyone living 500 years ago. We've traded our ability to understand the animal world for the ability to understand digital screens. Is that a fair trade? That's not my question to answer, but it's interesting to consider. So could ancient humans understand animal language? The honest answer is probably not in the way you're imagining. They couldn't have conversations with animals. They couldn't have learned their grammar or understood their stories. But they could read them, really read them, deeply, completely, in ways that modern humans can barely comprehend. And maybe that was their own kind of language, a language of observation and interpretation, a way of speaking to the world that didn't require words at all.